We continue to explore conversations about the challenges bedeviling our dear country, Nigeria. Now, as we move from security, we head now to power. The national power grid has collapsed once again, plunging Nigeria into widespread darkness, marking the 10th incident in 2024 and the second in just 2 days. Several electricity distribution companies, including Ikeja Electric and Ecodisco, confirmed the disruption, highlighting the growing concerns over the grid's reliability. The unprecedented frequency of these collapses have sparked public frustration as the country faces ongoing instability in its electricity supply. This latest failure, occurring around 11:29 a.m. on Thursday, has disrupted homes, businesses, and essential services nationwide.
Now, in response, the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, reported that efforts to restore power have begun, as of yesterday. According to TCN spokesperson Ndidimba, the grid failure was triggered by a frequency spike due to technical issues at one of the substations, which had to be temporarily shut down to avoid further complications. The grid frequency rose unexpectedly from 50.33 Hz to 51.44 Hz, leading to the collapse. Now, joining us to discuss this is lawyer and executive coordinator of NEPA Wahala NG.
All right, we have our guest joining us this morning. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you also for having me.
All right. I think the first question will be, it's the 10th time that the national grid is collapsing this year and the second time in 2 days. TCN has given its excuses, and of course Nigerians have expressed their discontent on social media and in real-life conversations. So what really is the underlying cause?
Well, as I explained during my last conversation with you guys, the issue is one of dilapidated equipment. The grid was designed for a much lower population than we have currently. It simply cannot carry the demands of a growing population. So we will be seeing more and more of these grids over the next couple of months until there's an urgent upgrade of the equipment.
Is it that simple, just, an upgrade of the equipment? Are you talking about transmission equipment now or distribution equipment?
Well, I'm talking about the entire value chain, right? This particular one was caused on the transmission end. According to the TCN, one of their substations had an issue and the entire grid shut down. So, but on the distribution end as well, whenever there is a load imbalance, you will always find that the grid will collapse in order to shut itself, in order to protect itself from extensive damage. So that's the way it's designed, like a circuit breaker in your home. So we will keep seeing these things over the next few months, as I said, until we have a total rehabilitation of the national grid, or until we have a regionalization of the grid. Okay, I'm talking about a situation now where the grid is segmented so that what happens in one segment of the grid will not necessarily happen in the other segment of the grid. In the United States, there's no national grid, right? It's regional grid. So if one side of the country has an issue, it doesn't affect the rest of the country. But for Nigeria, it's just one system that caters for the C-States and the FCT. So when issues develop, when there's a cold in Zamfara State, the entire country has an issue.
Yeah. I also want to find out, because I saw yesterday that the Minister of Power, had a meeting and they were presenting a report to him, which, of course, if you look at the reactions to that story yesterday, it was, a lot of people were very disappointed and didn't have any faith in any discussions that they were going to be having. So can you, let us know, what type of discussions they will be having 17 months after the inauguration of this administration, many months after he got into office? What new discussions are they going to be having? What reports, really are they going to be given to the minister? If, from what you say, it's pretty simple. We just need to upgrade the equipment on the different sectors, on the whole value chain.
Well, as simple as it sounds, it's not that simple because it's a question of funding. We're talking about several millions, even billions of dollars to get this done. Right. So where would the country get the money from? Right. Are we going to go into borrowing from external funders? At what cost? to the future generation. So that's the issue. So it's not as simple as that. Now, secondly, about that committee report, I have my issues with it, because if you look at the composition of the committee, it was basically comprised of people within the industry. We're talking about TCN, we're talking about GEM representatives, we're talking about DISCO representatives, we're talking about people from Ministry of Power. We are at the external bodies who can give an independent view. You can't have a system that's faulty, that's auditing itself, right? External experts, people from outside of the street need to get in there with them and tell them that, hey, there are certain things that you guys are not getting right. Okay, the composition of the committee for me was an issue from the get-go, and I don't think that a situation where we are complaining about, say, the police now, security issues, and we have just the police who are the ones inspecting themselves and telling us that these are our issues. No, we need to have external people who are there who can tell you, hey, brother, this is where your mouth is smelling, right? So I have my issues with that report. I'm hoping that report will get to us in a couple of days so that we can see what the minister was told. But as far as it was composed of industry, insiders, government, and the rest of them, I don't think that anything much would have come out of that report.
Now that you speak about the minister, again, every time that we see the grid collapse, the minister becomes a topic of conversation on social media, and people are asking, I mean, there are those who have said that his background hasn't been fitting for the role he's occupying as a Minister of Power. And I want to get your thoughts on how you think he has fared so far, and if you think he's fitting, or maybe there needs to be a reshuffling happening.
Well, I've always said from the beginning that this industry needs an industry expert. The minister has excellent credentials as an accountant, right, as someone who has worked in the private sector, and I have no doubt that he may actually be an excellent manager of personnel, right, which is a good skill for any person in that industry to be able to manage the people, the skill sets and all that are surround you. But you need to have subject matter expertise to be able to make reasoned decisions on the input of your subordinates. You can't rely on other people to take decisions to make recommendations for you, which you lack the expertise to judge between conflicting opinions. Because if you the entire chain, you find different people, different kinds of solutions on what is the problem and how to fix it. Now, who do you listen to when you don't understand the fundamentals of the industry? How do you make your decisions? So that's my gripe with the minister. He seems like an excellent gentleman to me, but that issue of lacking subject matter expertise will keep dogging him. And I think that the president may need to look at moving into some other sector where his credentials fit in for, and then get somebody who understands the industry from experience and then from training, and then who can sit down with these experts and actually be able to come up with solutions based on what he has been trained to deliver.
Okay, I mean, I guess that answers the question, and that's a sentiment that a number of Nigerians have also expressed. People were asking why he was still left in that office. But moving away from that, let's talk about the role that the private sector might have to play in this. You've talked about how much investment is needed in the power sector and how, it's a lot of money. So is it maybe time to evaluate the role of the private sector?
Well, the private sector has been on the hot seat on this issue right from when privatization took place in 2013. I think the entire process of privatizing the downstream and the generation sector was not properly handled by the government, right? And we are seeing the effects today, right? We are seeing that the private sector, these investors, did not meet up with their investment targets, with their capital expenditure targets in the industry. We saw this happen, and you see the domino effect now. You can see how many of these discos have been taken away by their lenders because they are not functioning. They are not functioning optimally, right? Revenue targets are not being met, and as long as revenue targets are not being met, then the prospect of even getting other investors to come into the sector reduces on a daily basis. Okay, now we are seeing better reports now of the discos being able to meet and even exceed their revenue targets. The figures, the data coming out from Eco Electric and Teja Electric are very encouraging. But across the industry, all that discos are bleeding cash. there is insufficient revenue assurance due to lack of effective metering. Government is taking steps in that direction. They set up bilateral trading where discos can talk directly with the gencos and then buy power from them, and then they're getting 100%. But for, even on that, before that can actually take proper effect on the economy, the discos still have to meter the customers who they are getting that bilateral, who they are getting power from that source on. There must be 100% metering, because for this one now, it is pay as you take. It's not pay as you use, it's pay as you take. So again, one of the things that the government has done recently is the passage of Electricity Act, and then allowing the state government to take control of the electricity market. Well and good, but I think that process is also not being properly managed, right? I think the states have been a little bit hasty in taking control of their markets when really the markets are not that developed to be able to handle the allocated load to those states, right? When I talk about handling the load, I mean talking about paying for the load, because from October this year, for example, now for Enugu State, which has fully taken over their market, from that date, the federal government stopped being responsible for the shortfall between power supplied and revenue generated. The state becomes responsible for it. A subsidy will have to go into effect almost at once. Can they handle it? Lagos, that has the capacity to handle it, has not yet taken control of the electricity market. What does Lagos know? That is, others don't appear to know that they are being a little bit cagey about taking this step. Okay, so a whole lot of things are in play right now, and I'm hoping that when the dust eventually settles, that there can be a way forward for the industry. But as I said when we started, we're going to be seeing more frequent grid collapses in the next few months until there is an upgrade in our distribution, transmission, infrastructure.
And this is not good news. It's very discouraging to hear this. So I think for the average Nigerian, if you say to them that they should prepare their hearts for more frequent grid collapses, what are the alternative options? I mean, I would say solar. Many people are looking for inverters and solar, but these are ridiculously expensive. So shouldn't this maybe be a time for the government to push investment in renewable energy and make it affordable for Nigerians? Is that an option that would maybe help us find some balance?
Yes, I think the government should do that. And I've got to report that they've started doing things along those lines, making credit available to civil servants for them to be able to acquire solar systems, right? That's just the way forward for anybody, right now. People should also consider looking at financing options for those who are not civil servants, businessmen or what have you, right? Entrepreneurs, to have alternative power source. I've had to do the same thing for my office and for my home. That's what guarantees me power. When I looked at the cost of having to buy fuel to run my generators in the office and the limited amount of power supply in the office, I have maybe like 3-4 hours guaranteed. So I have to be in the office for 8 to 10 hours and only 3 hours on power supply, and then the remaining 7 on backup generators. The price was crazy, the cost was crazy. So I had to talk with my bank and got a good deal for them to finance alternative power solution for me. And I'm sitting pretty, I'm enjoying that facility, and then paying for the the hybrid power system with maybe about 20% of the amount I would have been spending on fuel for my generator in a month. So people have to start exercising ingenuity and thinking of what that means that they can leverage on to have alternative power supply, because I'm telling you that things are going to get worse before they get better. We are in for a really tough time when it comes to power supply in this country.
Yeah, I also want to, ask, I think you already said that we would see more grid collapses, which of course Olive has mentioned is pretty heartbreaking. Nobody knows when the next one's going to happen. It's going to be tomorrow, or it's going to be on Monday morning. It's really, really painful. But I want to know, right, now we've established what the main challenge is. What do you think should have been the very first steps that the minister should have taken immediately he got in? Should it have been, either looking for funding to redirect to these sectors that you believe need infrastructure development, or should it have been setting up, PPP arrangements in order to, fund these projects once again? I mean, what should Mr. Adelabu have done immediately he got into office?
The first thing I think he should have done would have been to declare, Mr. President, to declare a state of emergency in the power sector, because that's the heart of growth and development in the country. Now, President Buhari had done some work regarding the Siemens project, right, and then revamping the transmission infrastructure in the country. Now, there should have been an urgent follow-up on that, right? There should have been an urgent follow-up on also revamping the distribution infrastructure. There should have been a state of emergency on metering, right? Because that's the end point. That's the end point. If there is full revenue assurance, if there's money coming to the system, then, right, you can have continuous investment, you can have continuous upgrades in the system so that, right, we can, because as I said, the problem is dilapidated equipment. If money is coming in, DISCOs can invest, the GENCOs can invest, TCN can invest in upgrading this infrastructure. But when they are battling day after day, day in, day out, with a revenue deficit, when the government is having to taking precious resources, right, to bridge the gap between revenue generated and power supplied, with the competing interest in the economy for that revenue, it's a problem. It's a major problem. So the first thing that they should have done was look for funding sources to bridge the metering gap. Urgently meter every single customer in this country. The inefficiencies in the sector are so great in that particular area. It's so bad. You can see customers in one house, in one premises. You can see 5 of them. They are on one bill, right? They're talking about the bill. They're saying estimated billing, right, is too high, is too high, is too high. But for the 5 of them, if you break it down among each of those persons, the bill for that premises is way too low. The DISCOs are losing cash, right? The system is losing cash. So the first thing they should have done is to address the metering gap, address it very, very aggressively. So once the revenue starts flowing in, then some of these things begin to correct themselves. Right, but right now we have inadequate data on how many customers we have on the grid. You have premises, they have 6, 7 families in one premises, and they are classified as one customer, right? That's why you see this, you see these figures, million electricity customers in this country. What rubbish. For a country of 120 million people, that can't be correct. But that's the data that they have because of this improper enumeration. So that's what they only need to do. If they can fix the revenue assurance aspect of the industry, then we can have the resources that are required to upgrade our infrastructure without depending too much on government to bring in money from sources that are not available to solve the problems of the power sector.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, it really just sounds like, again, we're going to go another 4 years and not say anything different, and everyone is going to be promised again in 2027, that they will fix the power sector and, this and that. So, I think what I'm trying to establish for many people here is don't expect anything different. Nothing's going to change. It doesn't look like, they know what must be done or they're interested in doing what must be done. But we need to go. Emeka Ojukwu, thank you very much for staying with us and for sharing with us this morning. We will speak with you again, hopefully next time the grid collapses or before then.